If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed. What is the long-term effect of too much information?
Information, I just need some information. I've been dying. Is it lack of education? I've been reading without any transformation. I'm addicted. Is it overstimulation? Hey.
Welcome to the Sixth Sense Report.
Hear ye, come one, come all. You are listening to the Sixth Sense Report with Joel Nikoloff and Darnell Samuels.
Yo, brother. It's cold outside, man. What do you got for a winter jacket?
I got a jacket from the Gap, actually.
Oh.
Why? What do you? What do you wear?
Well, I've got some, like a leather coat and I have another like work kind of coat, but then I got a good old. I think I have Under Armour for like snowboarding. So, I mean, all in, I could buy one Canada Goose jacket or have all three of these, and still have money to buy like an Xbox. I don't know. Yeah, Canada Goose is a couple bucks, man. There's they got some pretty expensive stuff. I don't think I'd ever buy one. What about you?
Yes, I would if I could afford it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
If I could afford it, at the price point, some of them can go as much as $1,000.
No, man, that's like the bottom is like $800.
Right.
The top is like they got this. I was on their website. They got this new one. It's like the Branta Fall Winter 2019 collection. They're all like $3,000 coats.
Okay,
so
well, for those of you who don't know much about the Canada Goose brand, the winter jacket. So the Canada Goose came into being in the 1950s when it was known as the Metro Sportswear Limited. Founder Sam Tick moved to Canada in 1950, and less than a decade later, he founded the company that initially specialized in professional cold weather wear like woolen vests, raincoats, and snowmobile suits. And so basically over the years, Canada Goose has built a name for itself, and it's become a very prestigious jacket. So much so that there was a school in the UK that banned kids from having them because it was kind of leading to the haves and have-nots. So
it was a signal of who was poor and who was not.
Who was hot, who was not.
Yeah, well, but also whose mom and dad had money and whose didn't.
Yeah,
or didn't have that kind of money.
Well,
because like, man, when your kid is growing up and he's gonna grow out of his coat in a year, like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, well, I think it raises the question first and foremost that Canada Goose has become the jacket of choice for most celebrities and anybody who wants to show that they got money, right? So it's kind of like that hype beast culture. And for those of you who don't know what hype beast culture is basically people who look to get the latest fashion for the sake of being seen as elite or clout chasing. So whatever's new, whatever's hot, whatever's trendy, they're on it. And so Canada Goose has become that symbol for hype beast culture. And it's basically built off the simple economic principle of supply and demand. So, the less the minimal amount of it, the less stock you got, the more exclusive the stock becomes.
Yeah, it's like, and you know all about that with your sneakers.
Yeah, totally. So I could definitely see why the jacket's a big deal. But the reason why it's a big deal is also a point of controversy for animal rights groups because they use down-filled jackets and it was filled with goose feathers.
Actually, they use duck.
Oh, it's duck? I thought it was Canada Goose.
I know, but that's just the brand.
Oh,
but
so it's duck feathers.
Yeah, a duck down, if I understand correctly.
Okay, a duck down. And then they use coyote fur for the lining, for the outer lining of their the hoods on some of the jackets.
Yep. Yep.
Because there was a post online where some animal rights activists were protesting in Yorkdale Mall, and they had real live dead animals that they were protesting, and they've been doing that a lot. Every year they've been protesting the Canada Goose store for their cruelty to animals in creating their jackets.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Like, for as a Christian, as like when someone, as an animal activist claim that you shouldn't be using animals for anything, arguably, does it cause you to pause, as a Christian or not? I guess is my question.
Yeah, well, part of it is, I think, I like little cute puppies, and I like little cute kittens. I do. What?
Okay.
Who doesn't?
I didn't know this.
But who doesn't?
Okay, yeah. No, fair.
You know what I mean? Who doesn't? So like, if somebody comes to me, and
I mean,
like,
YouTube was launched on cat videos, so yeah, fair.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But
who doesn't?
But we all like, I think at some point or another, we all love little cute animals, and we don't want to see them being butchered if it's not necessary. But I totally understand where the animal rights people are coming from, and their argument is basically ideologically what they're doing. What they generally do is they align the value of a human life with the value of an animal life, and so consequently, animals should be treated the same as humans. So you're not going to kill a human being and use their parts or whatever the case may be for fashion. If a human being is going to be harmed for fashion, that's a no. And same thing for animals. So I totally understand where they're coming from. Well, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think of, we're called, from the Christian calling of we're called to steward the land, and everything on it. And so to some extent, I definitely can resonate with the concept of animal cruelty. Now, I wouldn't agree with the definition of animal cruelty that, let's just say, a vegan or most animal rights activists use, because I think, I think of, when we use the concept of animal testing on products, I would say I do think human life is more valuable than animals, and so
and I think that's a biblical perspective.
Yeah, I would agree. I do think it's biblical, and so I do think that there's a bit of a gray area that maybe as Christians we haven't thought about enough, and maybe had too much of a, almost, let's say, elitist perspective with respect to animals, and I mean, I would even say the earth. We don't have to leave it at just animals, right? There's an aspect where we haven't taken that commandment to steward the earth with enough recognition that we can do it poorly. Mm-hmm. So I think, I don't want to say I'm sympathetic to it, but I'm willing to listen to the idea that treatment of animals is inhumane in some capacity, or for example, if we were testing products on an animal in a way that was like torturing them, as opposed to making them uncomfortable, and think of the concept of pain, and I mean, those are, it's something that at the same time, we as humans, we know that their experiences are not the same as ours. So they're not the same. But if it's going to preserve human life, but it's going to cost animal life,
they kill the damn dog.
Yeah. I mean, the question, but like it's different. Like, I mean, there's an aspect of like, okay, I'm gonna kill a dog to save my kid if he's about to bite my kid's head off. Like, okay, that equation is one thing, but take the idea of like testing drugs or other things, and to some extent, it's the potential for good for humans at the cost of animals. And that's where I can say, okay, maybe this is a little bit more like, have we taken that question seriously? Is something that, I'm just willing to be challenged on, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Not that I necessarily know the answer or that I think, that we should stop animal testing that we do. But I think it's something that maybe we haven't wrestled with the question enough.
Like, I want to be fair to the animal rights groups, but I think sometimes their logic can be a tad bit extreme. And I think besides, like, okay, for example, like, I'm sure all animal rights people aren't as extreme as some of the people we see running up in Yorkdale throwing red paint on jackets, the red paint symbolizing the blood of the animal on the coat, or walking around the mall and having like, dead animals. Yeah, dead animals to show the people like, this is what you're doing. Now, those people didn't kill the animals, but showing them, scaring people out of animal cruelty. I think a better alternative is competition. And I thought the Wuxly jackets brand
yeah.
Did a good job, and I thought that that's a good principle for us in general. Like, if you don't like something, then create an alternative that's potentially better. And I guess it was being marketed as the vegan jacket.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a
the climate change friendly social justice jacket.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's, Wuxly, like we'll put some links to their page. They've got, they call it the Wuxly movement. There's an aspect of,
it's not just a fashion brand, it's a movement.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything, it's a brand, right? Mm-hmm. Like, well, it's just a component of their brand. Mm-hmm. There's a pretty good video where Mike the Vegan, I guess, is his YouTube channel.
Right.
The video is called Canada Goose Loses to Vegan Coat. And he just did a walkthrough comparing all the characteristics, and some of them, I would say I would agree are relevant. Some of them aren't relevant. So I'll just read the list of things that he covered. He said insulation, Canadian quality, wet performance, cost, eco-friendliness, no bird harm, no killing for fur. So, I mean, if you're, let's say, not so sympathetic to the whether it's animal made or not, you could cut off the last two categories, and arguably the Wuxly jacket is better.
Is it?
I mean, that's based on his review. He basically so.
Okay. The specs. Let's talk about the specs, because Christmas is around the corner, and I want to make sure that I got my my stats.
Got
right.
wifey something good.
Yeah, I want to make sure I got my stats right.
Okay, so
no, hold on. So the point, the key thing for me, and I think hopefully for the listeners, when it comes to the jackets, is it warm? Is down-filled jackets better than what is it? What is the Wuxly filled with?
It's essentially a synthetic down. Is kind of the way that they classified it. It's a synthetic material. I think from the video, if I remember correctly, it came out of the military. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so he basically said insulation's equivalent, Canadian quality equivalent, mm-hmm. wet performance. Basically, if a down-filled jacket gets wet, it's essentially not you can't. It's not going to keep you warm. Mm-hmm. Whereas the synthetic fiber, I think he said something like only a 3% degrade in the quality of keeping you warm or something like that. Mm-hmm. Basically, the synthetic fiber getting wet doesn't hinder its performance or almost nothing. And then Canada Goose was more expensive, and the eco-friendliness, he claimed Wuxly was better. And it sounds like that's part of their brand, so at least they're presenting themselves in that way. I'm not going to make a claim one way or the other, but there's a goal for being eco-friendly. Now, just to
man, I don't care about eco-friendly. I want to look fly. Do the jackets look good?
I thought they were okay. I mean, to some extent, they were copying a bit. I mean, that's a bit of their goal. Like, I mean, there was
so the bootleg Canada Goose.
So they're
Canada Duck.
They had a Bay Street parka, an elk parka, and a bison bomber. To be honest, I don't know that I'd wear any of them, but I don't know that I'd wear a Canada Goose jacket either. Like, I don't know. It's not my style. So, in that regard, are they stylish? Sure. The Canada Goose jacket, there's an aspect of the logo itself conveys
prestige,
a bit of
style,
yeah,
flavor.
Now, I mean, I look at it, I see, so Canada Goose has this thing called a Forester jacket. I actually like that one. I think it's, kind of
how much is it?
In line.
Maybe Jenna's listening.
$800.
Okay, no, she's not listening. No, she's not listening.
Oh, dude, if Jenna bought me that jacket, I would take it back.
Oh, yeah?
It's from the same bank account.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's the difference? She bought it, I bought it. Like, I'm not spending $800 on a jacket. Like, you give me a lifetime warranty that's not for, the button fell off. Like, okay, now different conversation. Maybe $800 is worth it if I know that 25 years from now it rips, I can get a new one. Like,
oh wait, hold on. Were you just talking about the Kirkfield bomber?
The
Kirkfield bomber?
Which one are you looking at? Canada Goose?
Yeah.
No, the bomber that I referenced was for the Wuxly.
Okay.
Theirs was the bison bomber.
Okay.
But it's a Forester jacket. It's basically more of like a winter coat ski jacket style for the Canada Goose, not so much the parka style. And that's the cheapest one. I went to their website and I filtered cheapest just to see what the bottom end is in terms of pricing high to low. But the Snow Mantra parka, one of the ones with the dead animal across the head. What is it?
What?
Is it? Coyote? The coyote.
Oh, the coyote. No, come on. Okay, hold on.
Man.
Sorry, stop right there. Stop right there. So one thing I've noticed just over the years of living in Canada and having winter coats is that the fur lining on the hoods, every jacket generally has like that fur lining on the hoods. And a lot of them do. And some of that fur looks like dead dog, bro. Like, it doesn't look good, but I'm looking at these Canada Goose jackets with this coyote fur. It is plush, brother. It's, oh man, you feel like the Birdman, Lil Weezy, bling bling era. you just pop in your collar. You fresh to death, man. The fur looks nice.
I remember my buddy, Jenna's brother, had one in high school, and I used to chirp him about the dead squirrel on his head every day.
Well, he had a Canada Goose?
No, it wasn't Canada Goose, but it was that style with the rabbit over his head.
Yeah, but again, but I'm telling you that this coyote fur
looks fur.
Oh man, it looks. You just pet it and say, "Yo, good boy." It looks real fresh. So that's okay. I'm saying all that. I'm saying all this to say that you can't compare the Wuxly with Canada Goose, man. It's like, nah. This is not
from a brand perspective. Their target audience is different, right? Like, one of the things with Canada Goose is, and we'll put another video in the show notes page that's it's called "Why Canada Goose Jackets Are So Expensive." It's actually it starts off with the reference to that British school that banned them. They did a pretty good job of kind of giving a quick history. I mean, some of what I think you stole some of it from the
No, some another.
Oh, well, I mean, you said some of the similar things when we went to start the conversation. And they did a pretty good job of kind of pointing out that they've transformed their brand into essentially a mid-tier, upper-tier luxury brand. Like, it's not at the Prada level price point. But if you were to look, so they gave in the middle of the video, there's a shot where they basically price the Canada Goose jackets $1,500. The like high-end luxury stuff's like $2,500, which would be your like Prada era or Prada echelon. And then there was a company, Patagonia, that they said was kind of the, let's call it a comparable, but non-luxury, and that's $300 for the jacket. So, I mean, I don't know anything about quality of Patagonia. I just kind of pulled open their webpage. They just have a little bit more of like social responsibility and stuff along those lines. Quality of jackets look pretty good, to be honest.
How much? How's the price point?
Like $300 was the price point.
No way,
yeah,
because look, I'm looking at the Canada Goose vest, like the Duncan vest print, $625. The Duncan vest, $575 for the vest.
Yeah,
that's two of those jackets for the vest.
These guys have like a down sweater for like $200, which is like that puffy jacket. Or $300 for a hoodie one, $400 for what's looking like it's called a snow drifter. So I'm guessing it's for like, backcountry kind of like skiing type stuff. So we're talking under $500 for their top product. So yeah, I mean, I think, style, there's more style, but that's because that's the purpose. When you're a luxury brand, you got to have this like prestige in your look that just comes at another level. So I mean, that granted, there's some luxury stuff that looks absolutely horrendous at the same time.
Well, this doesn't look horrendous. The Kirkfield bomber, the black label Kirkfield bomber, I'm gonna put it in the show notes, right? The white one. If Tyra's listening,
and she wins the lottery.
No. Don't worry. 6 cents paying the bills right now. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right.
I'm getting that 6 cents money. No. There is no money. I'm kidding. But $795. But the bomber jacket is, like you said, it looks really fly. You're definitely gonna stand out in that. Right. So, I mean, again, I understand, like, for those people who don't want animals to be killed, but can Wuxly and all their alternative brands really beat out, like, competition wise? Can it really beat out the top tier brand of Canada Goose? I don't think so. I'm looking at their stuff and I'm like, nah, man. As long as people have the money, they're gonna be like, yo, screw it. I wanna look fly. Forget the dog, forget the cat, forget the coyote. It is what it is.
And that's where a company like Canada Goose, I would say, is not going to be recession proof.
What do you mean by that?
So, like, the idea that if the economy took a downturn, which, I mean, we're in a reality of business cycles, the current economic system doesn't really have much of a ongoing growth. Without every 10 years there's somewhat of a reset, give or take. To kind of put that in context, right now we're in what's considered to be the longest expansionary period of modern history. And so, and when I say modern history, I mean like the last 100 years. There's a sense that if things were to turn sideways, the luxury industry is going to contract substantially, right? Granted, you got companies like McDonald's that people would say are recession proof, because when you're rich, it's cheap food, and when you're poor, it's cheap entertainment. And so everybody, it meets needs in different capacities.
Good point.
So where something like this, you can't afford a $1,500 jacket if you just lost your job, even if you've got, $70,000 sitting in the bank. You're like, well, I don't think that's a good idea. Whereas if you're making $120,000 a year and you got 70 grand in the bank, you're like, okay, maybe I can afford that. Right. So that's my point about like being recession proof. As soon as things turn sideways, the person who used to buy your jacket is no longer. Now, obviously, the millionaires, the people who, don't have to think about money for the rest of their life, sure, they're not going to go away. But how much of your market is really that? I mean, the video we watched, or the video that you had sent me, the Why Canada Goose jackets are so expensive one, talked about, the luxury brand are actually being marketed to people who are not yet rich, but they have earning power, right? So the person who potentially can make money in the future is buying it today. And I think it goes back to what you were talking about, just trying to be fresh, trying to be hip. You're marketing to that person who wants to represent that they have money.
Yeah, millennial
Maybe
hype
even
beasts.
they don't.
Millennial hype beasts, right? Some people can't resist, man, because to have that look, people want to have that prestige like their favorite celebrity because they see the celebrities wearing it and they want to do it. But then there are people who are socially conscious. People are a lot more socially conscious now, and even like one of the comparisons between the Wuxly and the Canada Goose was that the Wuxly's made in Canada. It's a true Canadian brand. So as much as Canada Goose is this is a Canadian brand, it isn't necessarily made here. Or that's what the argument was. They were saying it's not made here. It's made in quote unquote sweatshops, versus being made down the street and using hockey laces and some of the lacings and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely. I mean, the vegan video kind of gave them both as being quality made, like, check mark to that category. But yeah, I think when you've got a brand as big as Canada Goose that's become pretty much international, as opposed to, as far as I can speculate, Wuxly is largely, not as international and not as big. I'm sure, financially they're trying to. They're probably doing well. But there's a component of it's a lot easier to not. You're gonna make everything in the same country when 90% of your sales are in that country. When you got a brand that's basically gone international, it doesn't even make sense to make everything in the same country. Like, why would I ship a finished product when I can just potentially import the materials, and build the product? So again, I'm not in the know on Canada Goose and whether all of it's, I'm sure there's a large portion that's built in Canada. But even things like zippers or, there's going to be raw materials.
Yeah, zippers are not here from here, right? From China,
that they're going to import, right?
Just
from a quality / cost perspective. It's just the nature of how things work.
So what's your 2 cents? What would you like to leave the listener with?
I think, the statement I've made a lot is really, this is a good application of it. So if you're a vegan or if you're, pro animal rights, my statement has always been the biggest way you vote is with your dollars. So, when it comes to, I think this is a good example that if you think that, let's say the price point of $800 to $1,000 for a coat actually is going to give you better quality. Okay, you're willing to spend on quality, but now picking one brand over another, let's say that you consider to be equal in terms of style, well, pick the brand that you align with, morally or goals or whatever, right? Or a company that you just want to support because maybe they're on your block or, someone that works there, like whatever the reason, like my point is you're voting with your dollars, because the companies that you support are going to survive, hopefully. And the companies you boycott, ideally, there's an aspect of, well, I don't want to support them. And so just, I think for the listener, you can take that beyond, this example and take it to the level of, where do you buy your groceries? Where do you get your hair cut, right? Like what, yeah, sure, you can go to Supercuts and pay like $12. But to some extent, like, I mean, I'm blessed. I got a guy down the street from me who I know personally, right? I mean, he's part of my community, so I'm willing to pay double the amount because I know him. But I also know I mean, to some extent, I'm also paying for the experience of where I'm going versus, Supercuts. What am I getting when I go there? From an experience perspective, I'm getting in and out of the chair as quickly as possible. As opposed to a barbershop sort of context. I'm not going to lie. I've literally played video games while getting my hair cut before at this spot, which was
cool.
Jokes. But no, I walked in and he was playing video games waiting for the next customer, so I just took over. But the point is, like, I think this is a prime example. You spend your money in a manner that's just that's beyond this is what I need or this is what I want. Maybe I think for a lot of listeners, putting more thought into, spending your money is voting. And to be honest, it's way more impactful than the vote you just cast, probably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What about you? What's your 2 cents?
Well, I think, like I said, I love puppies. I love kittens. I think they're the cutest thing, but I love God more. And so I was talking to our intern Stefan D. Econ Don about this, and he pointed me to Genesis chapter 3, verse 21. Say amen when you get there.
Amen.
So the context is Adam and Eve are in the garden. The serpent is in the garden. It deceives Adam and Eve, and they eat of the fruit, and their eyes are open to their sin, and they recognize that they are now naked, and they're ashamed of themselves. And so they run and they go to cover their nakedness with leaves. And of course, the Lord, God finds out that they ate of the fruit and that they're naked. And what God does is very interesting. So in Genesis chapter 3, verse 21, God covers them. He covers their nakedness. Even though they're covered in leaves, he gives them a better covering. So Genesis chapter 3, verse 21 says, Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins and clothed them. So what God has done is that he has killed an animal, and he has used the animal to cover the animal to cover Adam and Eve. God made coats of skins, whether it was leather or fur. God made the first fur coat. God made the first leather coat. God keeps us looking fresh to death. So at that point, you're kind of like, okay, well, God did it. Why can't I? Why can't I have a Canada Goose jacket, Joe? If I can afford it, hey, if you can afford it, you're free to choose. Buy the jacket if you can't afford it, or if it's your conviction and you don't want to see animals hurt, then yeah, you need to go buy a Wuxly. God has given us the cultural mandate, which is the command to use his creation to cultivate human flourishing. So he's given us dominion over all creatures of the earth. We see this in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 and 28 before the fall. And then also after the fall, he gives a command to Noah in Genesis chapter 9, verse 1, where again, God gives us command to have dominion over all creatures. It's a redemptive principle, or it's a reoccurring principle that God has given us throughout redemptive history. But also remember, downfield is like our duvet covers, our pillows. And I don't know if you've ever slept with a really nice duvet and a really nice downfield pillow. Man, it's like sleeping on a cloud. You know what I mean? So
I'm not a fan.
Well, you're not a fan of downfield pillows?
No. And I literally, like, me and Jenna, She gets the entire comforter, and all I sleep is with a sheet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you do you. You sleep with a sheet and a rock for a pillow. Me, I want down-filled everything, baby.
Dude, if I got the comforter, I'm sweating and I'm waking up like three times in the middle of the night.
Okay, yeah, that's you. But
boys gotta sleep,
Right.
I got just enough warmth. I'm good. I'm comfortable. I'm not even kidding. Like, I'll sleep literally with almost all year long is whatever the bed sheet is only.
Okay, yeah. No.
Jenna gets double portion of the comforter.
Yeah, no, it's down-filled all day, every day, early. So, please, to the Six Centers, let us know what you guys think. Was Joel and I off in our analysis of the Canada Goose hype? Is the Wuxly better? Is it generally better? Let us know. You can contact us at Six Cents Report on Twitter and our Facebook page on Facebook. And you can also email us at sixcentsreport@gmail.com. If you're trying to get in touch with me, it's Dogoodda Darnell. That's DOGUDDA_Darnell on Twitter and on Instagram. And then Darnell Samuels on Facebook.
And I'm T Joel N39 everywhere. Hit me up. Let me know. Yeah, I it's funny, just to leave the listener, I've actually engaged in the whole, vegan, vegetarian, sort of like from a biblical perspective before. I actually busted out, I cut and pasted my arguments before into Word documents because, I don't know, I thought I would say some vegans that I thought chopped the word in a very eisegetical manner, if that's the right word.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And I've just never heard it used in that way. It's always eisegesis, right? Anyways, and I just took exception to it and really, like, I think most arguments, at least from a biblical standpoint, generally are cutting verses either in half or singles, but when you read those texts in context, there's not much of an argument. That said, I think, Darnell, you hit the point really well. You use the word conviction. You know what? If you're convicted, test the spirit. If God's calling you in that way, so be it. But the Bible's pretty clear that you shouldn't judge others on the convictions that you have.
6 cents makes change.
But you heard me? Does that make sense?